Hey folks, Richard Walls here helping you with career development and personal finance, and I wanted to do a short video answering the question of, does college GPA matter? Now, whether you're in undergraduate school or graduate school, I'd like to share with you a personal experience of mine where GPA actually did matter on more than one occasion. Let me start off by saying GPA, or grades in college, doesn't define you for the rest of your career. It doesn't mean you'll be more or less successful. It's not necessarily an indicator of any of that. Never let it be your mindset that GPA is the be-all, end-all of career success or a determinant of career success. There are simply too many variables out there that are contributors to whether or not you are successful, however you define success for yourself. So with that said, I think what we have are two camps of thought, where on one side you've got folks that think GPA is everything and everything should be sacrificed in the pursuit of a perfect GPA. And then you've got other folks that say GPA does not matter at all whatsoever. It would also be the ones to say C's get degrees. The most realistic way and pragmatic way to look at this is, as you might have imagined, is to be somewhere in the middle. Generally, the best way to think about it is in terms of maybe a Venn diagram, where if you think of a good GPA, the worst it can do is not really help you all too much. But the best it can do is it can potentially land you a really good job that you might not have otherwise have had the opportunity to pursue if you didn't have a certain GPA. On the other side, a bad GPA, the best it can do is not help you too much, but the worst it can do is to be a barrier for you to access certain opportunities. Now, what I just mentioned was a little bit more of an undergraduate perspective. If you're going to college and you're coming out of school, going into your first job, that's a little bit more what it's in reference to. Now, if we look at this from the perspective of a graduate program, say an MBA or otherwise, the mentality that's associated with the C's get degrees or GPA doesn't matter doesn't translate very well to the team dynamics that you have. So in many graduate programs, and I'll talk a little bit more about MBAs, you do a lot of teamwork. You're working with people, you're working with other business professionals, and you don't want to be one that doesn't carry your weight on your assignments. You want to be seen as someone that's very collaborative. You want to see someone that has a positive attitude, someone that cares about the quality of work that they do. And again, if you have the mentality that GPA doesn't matter that much, it's also a good likelihood you're not going to put in really a whole lot of effort into assignments and into working with your team, which doesn't bode well from a networking perspective. Those aren't bridges you're building up. It's only going to be a negative for you. Now, from personal experience, let me share with you two anecdotes about where GPA mattered for me. For me, GPA has always been important. I would do well enough to get mostly A's, some B's, and some classes were extraordinarily difficult and I didn't do as well there. But nonetheless, grades matter to me. They've always mattered. Now, I wouldn't go again to an extreme where I would sacrifice everything in the pursuit of a 4.0 GPA, but I would certainly, I think I graduated undergrad with a 3.5. But the first place that mattered was in my first job out of school with the career that, with the company that I'm still at 9 years later. And at the time they had an opening where the minimum GPA requirement was a 3.4, if I remember correctly. Now, you may be thinking GPA is such a simplistic measure by which HR filters out candidates, but that's the way it is sometimes, and you don't want GPA to be a barrier to getting that interview in the first place. So again, this is where a bad GPA doesn't help you. It hurts you for certain opportunities. Now, the second story is actually when I went to go to apply for my MBA program to get admitted. Now, one thing that graduate programs look for in potential students is academic readiness, and the way they measure this are by exams. So if you were going to an MBA program, you might take the GMAT. Not all schools require it, but again, that's what they see as an indicator. For better or for worse, many will disagree that that's not a good indication of academic readiness, but nonetheless, that is a measure. But the second measure is GPA. GPA from your undergraduate program. And had I not had the GPA that I had, I likely still would have gotten accepted, but I certainly didn't want to leave that to chance. It certainly didn't hurt me. It could only help me having a strong GPA to show academic readiness. I performed well in a similar environment, and going into a graduate program, they can be reasonably assured that I'll perform well, that I will pass my classes and I will graduate. And then also, maybe just as importantly, that I'll go on to have success in my career. So that helps with the university and their reputation, because they want more people to be successful in the program and after the program. So folks, I hope that helps put into perspective the relative importance of a GPA in college. Again, it's not the be-all, end-all of career success. There's so many ways to be successful in your career without having had a great GPA. It's not something that you should sacrifice everything to have a great GPA, nor is it something that you should just totally disregard and just get by passing your classes. So again, treat it with importance. But you should approach your GPA and really your assignments with a positive mindset, hard work ethic, and putting in reasonably good efforts to produce good quality work, whether that's coming from studying and then it translates to assignments and exams. That's what you want to focus on. So with that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you around.